Hello, friends. So recently I posted a video where I promoted the idea of the divine feminine and how the divine feminine could resurrect us in the direction of a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful world. But even as I did that, I discovered that many people think the divine feminine pertains to women. Well, perhaps women will relate more to it, but I'd like to clarify what I mean by the divine feminine as an archetype and as an expression of what I've called the visionary response in the past. So I have in the past elaborated on various biological responses, such as the fight flight response, the reactive response, the restful awareness response, the intuitive response, the creative response, the archetypal or higher visionary response, and ultimately the sacred response. So let me just talk about the visionary response today, which is how the divine feminine relates. So, archetypes are symbolic expressions of the infinite divine. Since we can't imagine or comprehend or conceptualize the formless infinite, then the archetypes uh, help us understand themes, divine themes, or motifs, or stories that move us from ego identity to identity which is more in the universal direction, and the identity that helps us achieve healing, wholeness, and that which is holy within us. That which is holy within us. So, this divine feminine has been an aspect of almost every culture. If you look at some of the Mayan cultures and the indigenous traditions, including Aborigines, going back thousands of years, you will see that this divine feminine in Aboriginal Mayan and indigenous cultures is deeply rooted in spirituality and the natural world. In many indigenous cultures, the divine feminine is seen as a powerful force connected to nature, life, and creation. For example, in the Osseti Sakowin tradition, women are considered sacred because they embody the life-giving aspects of Mother Earth. This belief is reflected in their spiritual practices and symbols, such as the turtle, which represents longevity and fertility. In Australian Aboriginal cultures, women are also revered for their connection to life cycles and the natural world. Sacred sites like birthing trees are integral to their spiritual identity, serving as places where women historically give birth and perform rituals. These sites underscore the importance of the feminine in maintaining cultural and spiritual community. The Mayan tradition similarly honors the feminine through its deities and rituals, although specific details about Mayan practices regarding the divine feminine are less documented from other indigenous cultures. It is known that their cosmology includes powerful goddesses who play crucial roles in creation myths and agricultural cycles. These goddesses symbolize fertility, earth, and the cyclical nature of life. So, overall, across these diverse cultures, the divine feminine is not just a concept, but a vital part of spiritual practices that emphasize balance beyond masculine and feminine energies. This balance is seen as essential for harmony within communities and with nature. The reverence for the divine feminine reflects a broader understanding of our interconnectedness and respect for life. So that is just the Mayan culture. But let's look at other cultures. When we look at, for example, the divine feminine in Hebrew and Jewish traditions, we come across this concept of the divine feminine embodied in the figure of Shekinah. The Shekinah represents the divine feminine aspect of God, often associated with qualities such as nurturing, compassion, and protection. This concept becomes much more prominent in Jewish mystical literature, particularly Kabbalah, where Shekinah is depicted as a maternal presence guiding and protecting the Israelites during their journey from slavery to freedom. Another significant figure is Miriam, the sister of Moses and Aaron. Although not explicitly labeled as a divine archetype, Miriam, otherwise referred to as Mary, Miriam's role in the Exodus narrative and her association with water, a symbol often linked to feminine divinity, suggests a connection to the divine feminine. Her guidance and leadership among the Israelites highlights her as a protector and nurturer akin to divine qualities. Of course, additionally, Jewish traditions sometimes incorporate figures like Eve and Sophia, who are seen as embodiments of wisdom and creation. These figures are often interpreted through a lens that emphasizes their roles in bridging the material and spiritual worlds, reflecting themes of nurturance and earthly life. These archetypes collectively contribute to a broader understanding of the divine feminine within Jewish tradition, offering a counterbalance to traditionally masculine representations of divinity. And so, what about the Greeks and the Egyptians and the Indians? Okay, you can see that the divine feminine is omnipresent everywhere we go. So in the Egyptians and the Indian traditions and in the Arabic traditions, there is a lot of literature on the divine feminine. Let me actually first address some of the divine archetypes in Arabic and Islamic cultures. The concept of the divine feminine is present particularly within Sufism and Shia Islam. In Sufism, the divine feminine is often explored through metaphysical and mystical expressions. Sufi teachings sometimes emphasize the feminine aspects of Allah, portraying Allah as both masculine and feminine. For instance, the Sufi poet Rumi described women as the radiance of God, highlighting the divine feminine as a creative force. In Shia Islam, Fatima al-Zahra, the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad, is a significant figure embodying various feminine archetypes. She is revered not only in her roles as a mother and daughter, but also as a spiritual figure whose attributes resonate with divine qualities. Her portrayal often includes elements of nurturing, wisdom, and spiritual exaltation. In addition, Islamic texts and traditions recognize feminine symbols and qualities in various ways. For example, one of Allah's names, Al-Dhat, is considered feminine, representing the divine essence that transcends all qualities. Furthermore, certain Quranic narratives and figures like Maryam, Mary again, also embody divine feminine attributes such as receptivity and nurturing. And these examples and many others illustrate how the divine feminine is integrated into Islamic principles. So this much we know from all the various traditions. But how about Egypt and Egyptian mythology? And how about Greek mythology? So we should elaborate on that as well, because I've been a student of this for a very, very long time. In Greek mythology, of course, we have uh, Demeter, or Demeter, as she's often called, who represents the mother energy, Persephone, who represents the underworld and the hidden alleys and the dark closets of our shadow self. And she's also the sorcerer, Aphrodite, who represents beauty, love, sensuality, sexuality, the embodiment of passionate sexual energy. We have Artemis, who has relationship with nature and the environment. We have Athena, who is the goddess of wisdom and culture and art and science. We have Hestia, who is the goddess who represents the homemaker. So we have these divine archetypes which uh, represent symbolically our infinite potential for elevation. And finally, I come to the Hindu culture, where the divine feminine is part of a living mythology, everyday mythology. She's referred to as Shakti. Shakti is the power of manifestation, and Shakti has many modes. Saraswati, who's similar to Athena, represents knowledge, wisdom, and culture, and art, and science, and music. Uh, Mahalakshmi, who represents abundance in all its forms, including material wealth. And then, of course, Durga, the fierce goddess, who represents the destroyer, but she's the destroyer of the veil of ignorance. And she elevates to us to a higher level. So the reason I'm explaining all this today and elaborating on all this is please do not misunderstand that the resurrection of the divine feminine is only about women empowerment, although it is also an aspect of women empowerment, a very important aspect of women empowerment, because women have been overshadowed by the energy of the masculine, which goes back to hunter-gatherer times, programmed in our genes, violence and destruction and predation and conquest and ambition and entitlement, and also its distorted forms that appear time and again as misogyny and violence towards women and the desire to disempower women. So I think as we move, as you know, the arc of evolution takes thousands of years. And in many ways, our cultures, notwithstanding that our ancestors had the wisdom to know the divine feminine, our cultures generally are still ruled by primitive impulses. The fight flight response, which is fight or run or freeze. The reactive response, manipulate the world with being nice and manipulative, stubborn and manipulative, nasty and manipulative, playing the victim and manipulative. Unfortunately, these symbols still represent most of the leadership in our world. So I invite you to invoke the divine feminine within yourself so you can be an agent of healing and nurturing and affection and tenderness and beauty and empathy and compassion and love and equanimity. Take care, my friends.